Chennai security tightened after multiple blasts hit the city of Mumbai. The Home Ministry confirms that it's a terrorist attack, 13 dead and 81 injured. A drunken brawl among friends ends in murder in full public glare in Coimbatore. Everyone watches, no one bothers to stop and save the man. Media baron Kalanidhi Maran is called by the Chennai police for questioning in the case against Sun Picture CEO Hansraj Saxena. Swami Nityananda alleges that the controversial footage aired by a private TV channel was completely doctored.
Many of our devotees from whom they have taken the money, now they are afraid to come out and give a complaint because of these people's political and media and money power.
Superstar Rajinikanth is set to return to Chennai tonight after spending 6 weeks in Singapore for treatment. Well, we are bringing you the latest from that breaking news story, of course, of the bomb blasts that have happened this evening in the city of Mumbai. Over to our sister concern NDTV 24/7 for the latest.
सब लोग मिलके वो फायर ब्रिगेड का हुआ था, उससे बुझाया, पानी डाला, ये डाला, उससे जरा आग बुझाई। बाद में उसके बाद 20-25 मिनट के बाद एम्बुलेंस आई, फायर ब्रिगेड वाले आए।
जी हेलो, हाँ, काफी देखने में ये तो काफी भयानक तस्वीर लग रही है।
ऐसा देखा था, ऐसा आज से 4-5 साल पहले जवरी बाजार में जो मुंबा देवी के मंदिर के वहां पर हुआ था, फिर अभी ये हुआ है। वो का वो ब्लास्ट ऐसा भी हुआ है, और उस टाइम जो आदमी की मौत इतनी नहीं हुई थी जितनी अभी हुई है।
इसी आप कैमरा पर्सन इसी पे फोकस रखिए, अगर आप इसी क्लिप पे अगर आप फोकस रख सकते हैं, और आप ये बताइए कि इससे ये भी नजर आ रहा है कि सिर्फ घायल भी नहीं, लेकिन एक यहाँ हम बॉडी भी देख सकते हैं।
उसके 2 पैर नहीं थे, हाथ नहीं थे। जब भी एम्बुलेंस आया तो बॉडी को हटाया तो हाथ पूरा निकल गया था। फिर उन्होंने 2-3 जन मिलकर प्लास्टिक में डाल के उनको लेके गए।
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। So as you can see there, Nidhi, that from this clip one gets an idea of both the intensity of the explosion, the flames that were burning at the site of the explosion just shortly after the Zaveri Bazaar blast, and also we saw there at least one body very, very badly mutilated by the blast. The gentleman here, an eyewitness, says that he claims there were other bodies. Of course, this is something that will have to be verified. And also the very short and narrow nature of that corridor where the explosion took place, and the kind of impact that it could have caused. And of course, as the gentleman was pointing out, Zaveri Bazaar, no stranger to terrorist attacks in the past as well.
Vasu, what are the streets like right now? I can understand there would have been some panic and chaos initially when this happened. But where you are now in Dadar, are things much calmer? Are people coming out? What's the traffic like?
Well, if I can try, Nidhi, and just pan and show you now where we are in Dadar at the site of the explosion. The streets have relatively emptied out. That bus stand is where the Dadar explosion took place, and now, of course, that area is completely cleared. There's only just a cordon of police there, and most of the people have actually gone home. When we had come here, and this was shortly after the blast, and the blast took place here somewhere between 6:45 to 7 o'clock. When we'd come here, there were many hundreds of people who had poured out onto the streets from this surrounding area. It's a commercial, it's a market area as well as a residential area, and people were out on the streets. There was a lot of panic. The police were pushing them back as they milled around. But now you can see, both because of the fact that there's been a heavy downpour and also the large police presence, people have largely gone back. There are still some bystanders here, you can see lining the streets, and also some people watching up there from the balcony. But yes, there is now at least a greater sense of calm. Also because of the fact that a large number of politicians and civic officials in the city came down and have appealed for calm. We had the police commissioner come down here as well as the deputy chief minister, and they too urged people to return to their homes. It seems to have at least worked here in the Dadar area, also because this is, at least this part of Dadar is a commercial area. It seems to have emptied out. But obviously, if one talks to people, they are considerably shaken by what has happened here. We just spoke to a shopkeeper who's just across the road from where the explosion took place. The glasses of his store was shattered, and he also suffered some minor injuries. He said he's never experienced anything like this. The force of the blast literally threw him back into the shop. And so those are the kind of experiences of people here in Dadar. But at least here, the intensity of the blast much lower than others. So the injury is also that much lower. But as we saw from that extremely disturbing clip taken in Zaveri Bazaar, that's been a very different story both there and in Opera House, Nidhi.
Well, as you said, Vasu, in Zaveri Bazaar and in Dadar, the blasts were of low intensity. We're told that it was at the Opera House that it was a very high intensity explosion that took place. The Home Ministry has confirmed that it was the IEDs that were used in all of these explosions. I just wanted to ask you, Vasu, that here at least the Home Ministry is not at the moment speculating about who could be behind this. There were some sources in the Mumbai police earlier who were hinting that it could perhaps be the Indian Mujahideen. But what are you hearing? What are you picking up so far? Or is it just too early to speculate?
I think it is perhaps a little too early to speculate. We've been talking to virtually all the senior police officials who've been coming down here to these blast sites, and a number of them, of course, have been involved with investigations into previous blasts as well. So they have some experience of investigating groups like the Indian Mujahideen or the LET working in conjunction with the Indian Mujahideen, as well as the elements of the underworld who've been responsible for working with terrorist groups and explosions. Again, all of them saying it's way too early to try and jump to any conclusions. All they can say is that looking at the nature and the pattern of the blast, the Indian Mujahideen bombers in the past have used a much higher grade of explosives in greater quantity, and they've used typically cars to store those blasts. Here, if you see, both here in Dadar, where the bomb was supposed to have been planted somewhere under the bus. In the case of Opera House, under an umbrella. And again in Zaveri Bazaar, it was said to be in a car, but ultimately it turned out it wasn't. So in a way, it doesn't carry the signature of what they would consider an Indian Mujahideen type attack. But at the same time, again, they say that it's very difficult to try and exactly pin down any conclusion on that. And they have taken away a considerable amount of material for forensic testing from the site here, right. And we'll have to wait and see if that gives them any clearer picture.
I can't make out very clearly right now whether it's raining very heavily where you are. I don't know if it's drizzling, but we do believe that in other areas it has rained this evening, and there are some reports coming in that could actually affect the forensic evidence that investigators are going to look for.
Well, it certainly rained very, very heavily here, Nidhi, and what you're seeing, in a way, I don't know if you can actually see the drenched streets, that it did actually wash away, or it did also obviously have an impact on the blast site. But it's safe to say, Nidhi, that often, and this happens not just in explosions here, but anywhere else as well, wherever there's a blast, there are huge crowds that pour onto the scene, and it's very difficult for the police to actually try and contain them. So I think it's fair to say that even here, it won't be an entirely uncontaminated site in that sense. There were a lot of people milling around. There were a lot of journalists as well. There were VIPs, politicians who came and walked all over the site before it could be cordoned off like this. And I'm sure that would in some ways hamper or impede the process of gathering evidence from the site.
Also, before we let you go and move on to the rest of the developments this evening, what has the response been to this crisis this time? The general feeling is that everyone's been much calmer. The government's also been better with giving information. We heard the Home Minister saying that every 2 hours the media would be briefed as well. There was an SMS sent to everybody, all cell phone users in Mumbai by the police, asking everyone to stay calm. So has there overall been a much better and more organized response to something as horrible as this again?
Well, Nidhi, I've had the dubious distinction of being in Mumbai since 2003, and I've witnessed at least 3 to 4 waves of terror attacks, because that was a period when the terrorist activity of a newer kind, the post-1992 kind, was very much prevalent in the city. Both the Mulund and Ghatkopar blast, the twin blast, Gateway and Zaveri Bazaar, and subsequently the train blast and the 26/11 terrorist attack. And one has to say that on each of these occasions, there was an expectation that there would be some kind of a reaction after the blast, but that never took place. There was at best crowds milling around, agitated, but subsequently people did go home, and things remained by and large fairly calm. The city was on edge for several weeks and months later, depending on the intensity and the nature of the blast, particularly the train blast of 2008, but subsequently things did manage to calm down, and therefore I think this myth that somehow these blasts would cause a reaction so far has remained a myth, and we are seeing that pattern once again. Mumbai is remaining calm, tense and edgy, but nothing in the nature of anything that would worry the city at this point.
Well, we're just getting information now from the Home Secretary of Maharashtra that 20 people have now died in this terror strike that has hit Mumbai tonight. 20 people are dead, more than 80 people are injured, and he's also said that the highest number of people dead is at the Zaveri Bazaar and at the Opera House. As we've been saying, authorities have said that the blast at the Opera House was the highest in intensity, so they have confirmed now that 20 people have died. And these blasts took place, according to the Chief Minister, between 6:50 p.m. this evening and 7:04. So in a span of 15 minutes, this disaster took place. And the Home Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, will fly to Mumbai, we're told, either late tonight or early tomorrow morning to take stock of the situation himself. At the moment, as Vasu also said, no one is willing to speculate on who could be behind this. No finger pointing has taken place yet. There's still evidence to be gathered. And we're also going to be joined very shortly by my colleague Saurabh Gupta, who is at the JJ Hospital. I think I can go across to him now. Saurabh, are you there? And can you just bring us up to date on the people who are injured? How bad are the injuries? How many people are seriously hurt?
Well, Nidhi, quite a few of the people who've been hurt have been brought here to JJ Hospital. Now, we believe the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Prithviraj Chavan, will be coming here in a short while to visit the victims. Of course, we've been trying to speak to the Dean. The Dean is on his rounds right now at the hospital. He also will be talking to the patients, and he will be giving us an update as to what the condition of the patients are in a short while from now. Of course, he says he will give this update in a while, and that is when we will exactly get to know what the condition of the patients who've been brought here are. Now, of course, as we know, patients have been brought here from Opera House and the Zaveri Bazaar blasts, and of course these patients are being treated at the JJ Hospital. You can see behind me, that is the gate of the casualty ward of the hospital. There is a huge police presence. Of course, the Chief Minister is expected here in a short while from now, and of course the media crews are also here. And of course, we've not been told anything specific yet about the condition of the patients, but we are told that there will be an update as to how many patients have been brought in and what their condition is in a short while from now, once the Dean is able to speak to us after his rounds are complete.
All right, Saurabh, thanks a lot for that update. We know that the injured are actually spread across various hospitals, and those are pictures that Srinivasan Jain was just showing us 5 minutes ago, footage of just right after the blast that took place at the Zaveri Bazaar. And we know now from the government that this is where among the highest number of casualties has taken place this evening. This is the very crowded, narrow lane at Zaveri Bazaar in Mumbai. And these are the horrific scenes that took place right after that bomb went off this evening. We'd like to warn you that some of these pictures are a little bit gruesome. They've just been taken off somebody's cell phone and were just shown to us just a few minutes ago.
Well, those are the latest updates from that breaking news story from the city of Mumbai, where the 3 bomb blasts had taken place earlier this evening, starting from 6:45. Well, it's time to go into a short break. Coming up on the other side, it's the latest report and, of course, the immediate update coming from Rajnikant, superstar Rajnikant, arriving back in Chennai after 6 weeks of treatment in Singapore. Do stay tuned.